Hi there, I'm Clifford Bates, and welcome once again to reading Machiavelli's Prince. Today we're looking in chapter 15, which is kind of an important book because this is one of those books that switched churching themes to the question of virtue, the question of virtue of character, the virtue of the prince, or the question of the characteristics of the prince. Some people argue virtues. I think this is understanding character, the character or the characteristics of people in that sense. We're looking at the characteristics and term things that why and virtues in a sense. What are the virtues and vices, right? Here he does something very interesting. He by talking characteristics as both virtue and vices, good and bad. Now, the chapter is of those things for which men and especially princes are praised or blamed. So it's not only virtues, but in other words, we think virtues, right? Virtues, but also vices. But wait a minute, praised and blamed. Can you? Machiavelli gives us a conundrum because we will say that sometimes what is a virtue? A virtue can be blamed. In other words, virtues can not necessarily produce something that can be. I mean, we automatically think virtues are praiseworthy, and things that the traditional view is vices are to be blamed and to be just avoided, and anyone who has them should be blamed, and virtues are choice-worthy, chosen, and should be praised. Right now, Machiavelli gives us the problem of what happens if a virtue does not produce the good you think it does, but rather produces an evil. That in itself it may be good, but its effect may not produce the benefit you are wanting. So the question is, what is the good? Things produce good effects or bad effects, and that's the difference of here. The virtue discussion of virtue is the effect of the virtue that is the issue here. And this leads us to the question of what do you talk about? The effectual truth, right? We'll get to this infamous line here. So let's go look into this right away. It remains now to see the modes and governments of which of a prince ought to be with respect to his subject and his friends. So what modes and governments of a prince ought to be with respect to his subjects and friends, not his enemies, subjects and friends. And because I know that many have written on this, I fear I shall be taken to be presumptuous in writing about it again, especially in my departing from the orders of others in the disposition of this matter, disputation of this matter. Now, again, up until this point, there's a whole tradition in writing, in political theory, political writing. It's called the mirror of princes, the mirror of prince tradition. One of the famous examples is the example of, let's say, Cyropaedea, not Xenophon Cyropaedea, example of this prince. Another example is Cicero Diophaces, which is not about how to be a good man, how to be the good citizen in that sense, the good human being in that sense. When, and this is written at the end of the Republic, so Marcus Aurelius's account of himself of the meditations, right? This is the idea of meditations of how he should be a good ruler in that sense. But Cyropaedea brings us an author of another. There's a lot of these books about these writers about there's a whole tradition of this, mirrors of princes, and that the prince is seen to be kind of part of that tradition, but also kind of breaking away. Another mirror prince at this time would be the Book of the Courtier, Castiglioni's classic book, Book of the Courtier, which is about written around the same time period and time as the prince in that sense, and as famous in that sense. Uh, 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 about this kind of book of imitating how you should be a proper courtier here, who's going to be a man of the court, right? The man of the court, not a prince per se, but an advisor to a prince. The Book of the Courtier, but the other books of the writing of this is these traditions of the books of educating of a prince. I think there's even one that St. Thomas Aquinas does on kingship, right? On kingship, which he's writing to a person who's going to be a king, and I think it is a king in Syracuse. I don't remember the exact on kingship. That's St. Thomas gives us kind of similar education of kingship. So therefore, there is this tradition that's from the ancients, from Xenophon to the Romans, to some late Romans, Roman Empire. It's a little bit of this. You see this maybe in Plutarch, the question of lives, the ruling of lives of rulers, right? Plutarch's in his lives. And Machiavelli ended the last discussion of studying of great men, right? The studying of you should be studying these great captains and great leaders of the past. We should read histories. So, so what are we doing here? We got the imitation. We're imitating in that sense. And to understand their character, we have to understand the questions of who they are in that sense. So the prince here gives us his moment. He's going to what? He's going to depart of the orders of others in here. Therefore, he's going to think it's presumptuous in writing about this because he's doing something different than they do. He's not going, and one of the things he does is questioning virtue. In other words, here virtue can be, in other words, a good characteristic. The thing, virtue. What is virtue? He speaks of virtue, but what is virtue? Is virtue merely to be understood as the good characteristics that we like, and vice is the bad characteristics? But what happens if a bad characteristic is not problematic but beneficial to you as a ruler, beneficial to you to help your people in that sense? So therefore, this leads us to this moment here, right? This is his departing of the orders of others and disputation of this matter. But since it's my intention to write a useful thing for him who understands, right? My intention here is to write a useful thing. It seemed to me more profitable to go behind to the effectual truth of the thing than the imagination thereof. In other words, this word is a very important word, la vetera, the veritia effectuale. Nowhere else. This is the only time it's used. It's a Machiavelli creation. The effectual truth, as distinguished from the ineffectual truth, right? Effectual versus ineffectual truth, signifies that Machiavelli is not interested in truth as such, but that truth which may be put into practice. Here, as in chapter 15 of the print, we are here in chapter 15 of the Prince, at the beginning of the modern concern with justification or confirmation of theory by practice. It's not contemplation, but successful practice is the end of thought. So the thought is not concerned with contemplation of what's going to be thing, but rather successful practice, the outcome of the thing. Not just truth in itself, but the truth that has positive effect. That is the effectual truth, not the imagination of it. And then he goes, and many have imagined republics and principates that have never been seen or known in truth. Slap at Plato's Republic. This is a slap. City and speech. City and speech can never be known. Even the laws would be attack on the laws as well. Machiavelli is attacking anyone who speaks of imagined republics that have never been seen or known to be in truth. Because there is such a distance between how one lives and how one should live, that he who lets go of that which is done for that which ought to be done learns his ruin rather than his preservation. For a man who wishes to profess the good in everything needs must fall among so many who are not good. This line. In other words, for he who wishes to profess the good in everything needs must fall among many who are not good. So the danger here is We should, what about in truth, never have known about these things. We should know about the ones that really are, things that are. Because there is such a distance between how one lives and how one should live. And he who lets go of what is done for what which ought to be done learns his ruin. He needs not only know what should be done, but he should know if he forgets what is done, does not he lets go of what is done for that which ought to be done, learns his ruin. Hence, it is necessary for a prince, if he wishes to maintain himself, to learn to be able to be not good, and to use it and not use it according to the necessity. Now, he's not saying doing it, in other words, necessity, to the necessity. He's not saying here, be bad, be wicked. You need to know, he says, if you wish to maintain yourself, maintain himself. And again, the purpose of here is not just maintaining power for maintaining power, but you're maintaining power because you want to achieve great things, to do things beneficial. But if he wishes to maintain himself, to learn to be able to be not good, you need to be able to know, able to be not good. In other words, dirty hands. This is what Max Weber in the discussion in the vocation of politics talks about his dirty hands. Because we want to be good, we want to be good and nice and innocent, but sometimes you're going to have to get your hands dirty, do things that you think is wrong, but because that's the only choice. That's necessity. Necessity requires it. The survival of your political order requires it. So learn how to be not good and to use it and not use it according to necessity. Not just do it all the time, not to be just be bad for bad's sake, but you're bad because the situation requires it. Second paragraph. Omitting then the things about imagined princes, and discussing those which are true. So I'm going to ignore imagined princes and discussing those which are true. I say that all men, whether one speaks of them, and most especially of princes, since their place so high, are noted for some of these qualities, which bring them either praise or blame. So that we know from qualities. These are the qualities that they're going to have, the qualities of a prince. And that these qualities are going to bring them, characteristics or qualities, are going to bring them what? All men, especially princes, are known for their qualities, these qualities, that will bring them either praise or blame. Now, here, this is a big thing because he's going to give us a list. Now, I didn't want to do this. I should perhaps go find. Oh my God! I should post up here Aristotle's Ethics, where he gives us the famous list of ethics. Where is my, the virtues, right? The famous virtues of Aristotle. We have courage, moderation, magnificence. It's always does. You always want to say, I want to go to the ethics. We did the ethics. The famous list of virtues. Now, in the Wydawnictwa ethics, okay, maybe that's. In the famous Wydawnictwa ethics, Aristotle gives you this famous list here. Um, um, Irascibility says, the famous irascibility, two excesses, extreme deficiency, extreme deficiency, and then uh, the virtue, right? The excess, defect, and the virtue. Um, he goes irascibility, impassivity, mild manneredness, ophosume, right? Then rashness, cowardice, courage, shamelessness, bashfulness, sense of shame, intemperate, insensibility, temperance, right? Sophosume, right? This is the thing, impassivity. Then he gives envious, nameless, indignation, profit, loss, justice, wastefulness, and ungenerosity, generosity, liberality, right? This is boastfulness, self-deception, truthfulness, flattery, churlishness, friendship. Now, these are the class. It goes all through the famous examination of the virtues and vices, right? This is the tradition of this, the virtue, the excess, defect, virtue, right? This is, and therefore we get to something. But we get here, Machiavelli gives us a list, but a list. He pairs things, but we don't get a simple virtue. We get something that may be good, but something bad. But there's not an ordered list in that sense. It's very interesting. This frustrates everyone when we do this, right? He goes, which are be blame and praised, okay? And thus some are held to be liberal and some miserable. Now he uses liberal miserable. He says, in using the term miserable, I avoid avro, because in our language still devotes one who desires to avrine. Miserable we call the one who abstains much from of his own, niggardly. Right? This is so liberally and miserable is one who abstains from his own. He's not rapine. He doesn't, in other words, he's more like someone who doesn't take much. He's stingy, right? Stingy. He's not rapine. The other one is the because avro in our language still denotes someone who lives by taking. The miserable just abstains using much of his own. Some are held to be givers, other rapacious. So the first, liberals and miserable, stingy, right? Stingy. That's like liberal, miserable, stingy. Now he mentions that he uses the Tuscan word, not the modern, because the modern word of this word is problematic. Because why? Because it has rapine. That's different. Now, niggardly, we use the word niggardly. That's can't use that because that sounds like that other word we can't use. But niggardly means stingy. It's excessive that I'm so tight. I'm not going to even give you a dime. Um, it's like that it's someone who only uses. He doesn't give anyone to anything else. So liberality is one who gives freely, and the other one is that I'm stingy to excessiveness, stinginess, right? But not a but he can't. He uses this weird word here. He gives this like a footnote here because he needs to explain the different language. In modern Italy, the word we've used, the modern language, it's too close to the of taking. This person, someone's like this is taking from others, but no, it's only this quality is miserable, right? He doesn't want to give to anyone else. Next are what? Givers are to be givers, right? So not liberal, but givers. And others are rapacious. Okay, so that's one, but now this one. Next, liberal, miserable, right? Miserable. Uh, uh, um, um, Givers, rapacious. Some cruel. Wait a minute. Other things were good on this, and others filled with pity. Now, oh God, this is going to be a big. I need to go look at this because pity here is a big problem. Um, we have to go see a chapter of this. I'm not going to go do that, but that's chapter one. Pity is a big problem. Why? Because pity is like piety. It's tied in French. It's the same word is tied to like piety. It's confusing in this sense. It would lead us to a lot of problems. 27. No, 127. I'll just read it. Uses the term pistola and pistera, which are usually described as mercy and merciful, but they also are more accurately translated as piety and piteous. Piety has meanings that are now obsolete as of pity and mercy, right? But it also refers to man's godliness and religious devotion, and a piteous man could be a pious or merciful or both, right? This is why it'll be in a couple chapters from now, this question of purity and pity, it will be raised. Um, why am I mentioning this? Because I think this is important, that all of a sudden pity, full of pity. So here is some cruel, so therefore others are full of pity. One faith, piety, pity, one full of pity, or piety in that sense, that was a double meaning of the word. One faithless, the other faithful. One effeminate, and pusillanimous, so a woman-like and small, so pusillanimous, small, minuscule of soul, animus, spirit, smallness of spirit, smallness of soul. The other fierce and spirited, so dual things, right? One human, the other proud. So one is human, but the other is proud, pride, right? Hubris in Greek, could be. The other lascivious, that means like lusting and wanting of other things. The other chaste, he's like not going to be virgin, clean, not wanting sex and not wanting desires things, right? Lascivious is lascivious one who wants things, sexual things and passions and desires. What chaste is someone who just won't do that, doesn't seek that, he's chaste. The one open, so this is open, means open in what? Open in the sense of open to curiosity, open to other people's opinions, other things. The other cunning, so open, but then the other cunning. One hard, the other easy. One hard means tough, right? The other's easy, weak, or like this. Not necessarily weak, but uh, uh, easygoing, not difficult. This could be the hard, one hard is also something difficult. Other easy, right? The other grave, it means serious all the time, serious. The other light means that happy go lucky, it's not, light person. The one religious and the other skeptical and the like. Now, I don't want to go too far into this point, but this is note 3. These are discussions of the virtues concerned with the passions, is Nicomachean Ethics 1106 B33 to 1108 B and a 9, right? That famous section in the Ethics. If avarice were included in the list, we'd have a list of 12 vices and 11 virtues, right? Avarice is a vice with no corresponding virtue, right? That's the problem. I'm not sure you should do it. This is a big thing. Is avarice in there? If you include avarice, there's 12 vices and 11 virtues. Remember the list, but otherwise, the list is of 11 corresponding virtues and vices. Okay, but they're not corresponding because they're not. The order is not on one side virtues and the other side vices. It switches. Okay. If the virtues of liberality and giving are not distinguished, and Professor Strauss points out that Machiavelli says in chapter 16 that they're not to be. Then Avero is not included. Then the list is of 10, right? Avero is not included. There's no corresponding. Um, 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 so it points out that that they're not that the virtue of liberality and giving are not to be distinguished, and starts out that they're not to be. Then there's two. There's a list of 10. So giving and that and therefore Avero is not included. So it becomes something else has to be list of 10. That doesn't make sense. There's a list of 12, 11, I'm sorry, 11, no corresponding vice. 12 vices and 11 virtues. So two lists of 11. But if Strauss is right, then there's really two lists. There is a list of 10. One is left puzzled as to whether one should not include in the list, right? What should be included, not included. It is also an incomplete one. And the list itself shows no discernible order, right? For sometimes he lists virtue first and sometimes a vice, right? So therefore, this is that weird listing. The ordering here is a very frustrating list. So we have this list of things, these characteristics. It's a confusing list. What is to be included? What is not? Is it 12? Should we include Avro here? But which is a what is it is a taking that's rapine-ish, but maybe we shouldn't. But then when we have so that's a weird listing order. We should live the ordering misero compared then to um, uh, uh, um, givers. Some are givers. So liberal and then that and then givers. Others are rapacious, others are cruel, others rapacious. So givers, rapaciousness. This echoes this thing that can say that maybe liberal and avero. So therefore, isn't this weird in that sense? Um, but then the stingy person is missing. So is liberality and giving is the same? Now Strauss says yes, and I think we will say maybe giving and liberality is conflated in the next chapter, which is that famous chapter on liberality. Um, so we have these categories, these really weird categories of these things that are both some seem to be things as virtues, some are vices. Was it 12 vices and 11 virtues? Or 11, 11, right? And the ordering is not clear. It is not virtue, vice, virtue, vice. It's complete ordering in that sense. And one time there's two things combined to each other with compared to two things combined to that. Now, the last paragraph here. And I know that everyone will confess that it would be the most praiseworthy thing to find in a prince all the qualities written above which are held to be good. So I confess that everyone I will, I know everyone will confess that it would be praiseworthy thing to find in the prince all the qualities written above which are held to be good. But because one is not able to have or to observe them wholly, you cannot, in other words, you cannot have or observe them wholly, for human conditions do not allow it. It is necessary for him to be so prudent that when he knows, prudent that he knows, he Sorry. He will be prudent, that he will know how to avoid the infamy of those vices, which should lose him the state. So he should avoid the infamy of those vices that would lose him the state. And if possible, to guard himself against those which will not take it away. To guard himself against those which will not take it away. But if he cannot, he can with less concern let them go. In other words, he can let them go with concern. In other words, if it's possible, he is prudent. He will know how to avoid the infamy of those which will lose him the state. And it is possible to guard against those which will not take it away. But if he cannot, he can not worry about it. He can let him go. And further, he should not concern himself about incurring the infamy of those vices, without which it would be difficult to save the state. In other words, he has to concern him. Further, he should not concern himself about incurring the infamy of those vices, without which it would be difficult to save the state. For if one will consider everything well, he will find something which will seem virtue itself, and his conforming to it would be his ruin. It would seem like virtue itself, but his conforming to it would be his ruin. And something other which would seem vice itself, but his conforming to it would succeed in security, and the good being his. So this is the beginning of what we would see in someone like the Fable of the Bees by what's his name. Well, it's blanking now. I know the name. Manderville. Bernard Manderville's Fable of the Bees, right? Public vice, private vice, public virtue, public virtue, public virtue. Was it, you know, that famous line in Manderville? I can't ever remember the subtitle that well. Hold on. Of private, private vices, public virtues, or private vices, public virtues. In other words, this is something that virtue itself, but conforming to it will be his ruin. And something which will seem like vice itself, but conforming to it will succeed. Would succeed. It would succeed in security. Which would succeed in security, and the good being his, the good itself being his. So this is the problem here. The good, not benefit. He doesn't say benefit. He says the good. It would seem vice. In other words, the thing seems virtue itself, but it will be your ruin. Something which will seem vice itself, but in other words, it gives you security in it, and the good will be yours, be his. This is the problem here. This is the reality of the quality. Certain qualities will bring you bad qualities. You should not want it. The bad qualities vices that will bring you infamy of these bad vices that will lose you the state, avoid them at all costs. But if the vices that don't lose you the state, then what? You should guard against them, but if it happens, you can. This says he can with less concern let them go. But he should not concern himself with incurring the infamy of those vices without which it would be difficult to save the state. If you need to do it, if you need to save the state, if this vice is that, then you must do it. You must not worry about it. If this saves the state, the goal is not your own power; it's saving the state. Now, this is the problem. What is saving the state? What happens when you you conflate your interest with saving the state? This is the problem. What is the good? It is really the good of the people, right? The public order, the good of the public order. The question then is, what is the good of the public order? Because if you don't have a clear understanding of what the good is, or what the public thing is, then the bad guy, the bad guy doing the nasty thing, everyone thinks they're doing it. See, this is the problem. Everyone thinks they're doing the good. The bad guy thinks what he's doing is right. The good, the bad people doing their thing, they think what they're doing is moral. A lot of the leftist progressives, when they're doing their things, they don't. Yes, the result of what they're doing is disastrous, but they believe that's the moral end, and they must ignore that they're doing the good. And if the negative results are we're just imperfect, we have to suffer those negative results, because only by changing our natures and changing people so that the good will become, we can be. This is the kind of Marxist history will lead us. This is the good. The truth is this way. We have to go this way, and eventually we'll get it. Yes, it's inconvenient, the mistakes and these errors, but we have to just keep on doing it, because this is how everything will turn out, right? There is this inevitability, the consequences. Now, Machiavelli's attitude is no. The consequences matter. Pay attention to the reality of the now and the situation of what is the beneficial, what is long-term beneficial too, and try to understand that in terms of this. And then only by having the judgment of knowing what is the good and what is beneficial in this sense, what is truly beneficial to the thing, what is the good. You might have ambitions and glories, but those glories must be tied to benefiting people, because that is how glory is really achieved, not in your own mind. Uh, Others will look at it, and this is an doxa. This is an opinion. Glory is an opinion. Glory is what other people looking upon it grant you. It is not innate. It's not, I have glory. I've done this great thing, and all history will acknowledge me. No, I'm sorry. The problem with this is that it will be whether people looking at this will view this honorably or benefit as this a good thing that they think is good and beneficial and is necessary. They see it as something useful and choice worthy or not. There will be appearances to this. The question then becomes, at one level, you have to look at the question of, you can't know what the end of history is. You can't know the glory of that moment. You might want glory, but the thing you must do is the best you can get. The best you can get is for your people and the surviving of your political community that they live for the future, that they have a future. And this is where we end today's chapter in that sense, this reading. This is why the question of characteristics. Which characteristics bring praise and blame, and why? When should you do this? When should you engage in this character? When should you have this character? In other words, his argument seems to me that if it brings benefit to you, if it does, it does help you achieve what you want. If it doesn't, then what helps you what helps you secure the good of the state? Get what you want, and does getting this help you secure and benefit the public and the public good? That is what Machiavelli's up to here in that sense. So we'll stop here. If you have any comments or questions, please put them below, and I'll respond to them when I see them. Another thing you can do is, if you have any comments about this or sections you want to talk about here, themes of this, I kind of didn't want to give current examples, but we can always do current examples in that sense. If you liked it, hit the like button. Hit the like button, please. It helps the algorithm I need more likes, more people liking, therefore more people will see it. If you have any, if you've liked the video, share it on your social media, share it far and wide, it helps. Again, both sharing, liking, and sharing helps the algorithm. If you've not subscribed, please subscribe, because this, again, helps the algorithm. Encourage people to come visit us. Come get a friend to come check us out. Not only check what we're doing now in the prints, but check the other videos and other things that we've done in the past and we'll be doing in the future. Another thing you can do is say hi to everyone. Hi. No, so please subscribe, share. Now, I said if you didn't like, you can always thumbs down. But say why in the comments, because this way you can explain it and we can learn from it. People can learn from it. You can see I'm a little not so well. I understand. I've been traveling and back and forth, and we're at the end of the semester, and I'm kind of worn out. But I said I'd do these videos, and this is a good day to do it. I have to do exams on Friday, and I'm not looking forward to it. And I'm getting my student papers this week, so I'm kind of like tired. And tomorrow's holiday in America, big one. Yeah, but I'm not. This is after it, so this recording will show the week after that. I'm kind of slow getting up, catching. I should have done these videos a little stronger and I was feeling a little better, but no, I just didn't have any energy and didn't have time during much of June. So if you've liked what you do, check it out. You want to check me out on social media, go check the social media links below. You can follow me on social media. The other thing you can do is you want to know more about me as a scholar and as a researcher and check my research out. You can check my academic social media links below, the social media links. And if you want to help, if you have means to do so, help to be a contributor, to be a patron or a supporter, please consider. It helps. Every little bit helps right now. You can do through subscribe to our Patreon. And that's it. That's what we can do. Next thing you can do is if you want to help me buy a book. One of my books listed below, the books that are currently available that are listed below. And you can order one of them through an online, you order your bookstore yourself, or an online book distributor, or or even heck my voice. Oh no. An online distributor like Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or Libris, or one of those things, or through the publisher itself. Well, that's it. We will look at chapter 16, liberality. Ooh, liberality. Giving. This is the giving. There's a famous Seneca. People said, why don't you look at Seneca? Seneca's on giving, right? Liberality, which is, I think, Machiavelli is responding to Seneca less than Aristotle. Yeah, people say, oh, he's talking about Cicero. Cicero's De Officiis is one of the criticisms, but Cicero and Seneca are the two people these are the voices. These are the Christian authors of the Middle Ages turn to for their mirror princes. And Machiavelli does wage war against them. Machiavelli looks at Cicero De Officiis, and in many ways, these chapters, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19, are really directed against Cicero and Seneca to a great degree. So we'll pay attention to that next time we look. I think liberality will be our next thing. So, okay, we'll see you then. Hope everything's okay. Take care. Bye-bye. Have a good weekend.